It is nice to be here in Prague once again, but it is not nice to have the graveyard shift for the second day running. I am not an academic. I have little knowledge of medical procedures. In fact, one of my MS side effects means that I have great difficulty in pronouncing those long medical words. All of you here know what multiple sclerosis is medically. Well, I, for one, could not care less what MS is medically. I am only interested in the way MS affects my quality of life. I will take you back to the year in which I was diagnosed, 1985, and how I felt at that time. 1984 was the worst year of my life. On the 7th of January, my mother died of multiple myeloma, cancer of the bone marrow. And on the 7th of December the same year, my 9-year-old daughter was killed in a freak accident. The following spring, in March or April, I got pins and needles in both my legs that lasted for over 2 weeks. I attended my doctor, worried that I too had multiple myeloma. The doctor did the usual doctor tests and assured me of 2 things that I did not have. They were multiple myeloma and multiple sclerosis. This second condition I had never even heard of previously. I told him that I was not interested in what I did not have, so could he please refer me further. This he arranged in early May 2005. I attended a neurologist who took one look at me and said, "Mr. O'Connor, you have MS. I will take you into hospital for a lumbar puncture just to confirm the diagnosis." There were no MRI in Cork at that time. This he did in June of '85 and explained the possible progression of MS, but he was hopeful that my MS would not be too bad. He said that there was no treatment available, so I should go away and live my life. The only bit of good news that I took from the diagnosis was that, in his opinion, I had MS for at least the previous 19 years. If this was the case, MS had had very little, if any, effect on my quality of life, and I hope that that might continue to be the case in the future. My wife, June, knew what MS was, as one of her neighbours growing up had MS, so she was more fearful than me. I rang MS Ireland's helpline and found their advice was too negative for my liking. I stayed away from joining the Irish Society for the following 8 years. In 1997, I had my worst MS attack. I was totally paralysed and could not even speak for 3 or 4 days. My doctor stood at the end of my bed and said to June that it was my MS, there was nothing that could be done, and I might be like that for the rest of my days. It nearly killed me that I could not answer him and tell him where to go, and I would not have been too polite. That was the last time that I saw that doctor. I took some homeopathic tablets and got intensive physiotherapy at home. I recovered slowly, returning to work within 3 weeks. However, my speech has never recovered its speed, and I had to reduce my vocabulary as I still have difficulty pronouncing certain words. Speaking slower and word loss has not turned out to be much of a problem. I remained at work until 1993, when I was able to retire on what could be described as full pension. I retired because of lack of control of my emotions. I can cry or laugh without any reason, and I explained this to my bosses as follows. When a customer comes into a bank manager looking for a loan, it is not normal for the manager to cry. I have had many relapses, but quite good periods of remission. Life could be better, but it could also be considerably worse. My main disability areas were lack of control of my emotions, lack of mobility, I miss walking and golf, lack of dexterity and flexibility of my fingers and my spine, lack of control over bowel and bladder functions, and the usual fatigue problem. I tried the interference some 5 or 6 years ago without success. In fact, in my opinion, I went backwards during the treatment. I have no regrets for trying, as I accept that with any treatment, there can be at least 3 outcomes. You improve, hopefully, you stay the same, or you deteriorate. Unfortunately, with the interference, in my case, it was the latter. I have just completed my 6th transfusion on Tysabri. So far, so good. In fact, immediately after the first transfusion, my bowel and bladder functions returned to normal, and for the majority of the time since have remained so. This has had a wonderful effect on my quality of life. Placebo effect, you might say. Who cares? That brings you up to date with my life with MS so far. But what about the future? I have a very positive attitude to life, and most people tell me that I am too optimistic. But if I am dreaming, is it not much nicer to have a happy dream than a sad one? I look to the experts in all fields to provide the solutions in order for me to benefit in the future with an improved quality of life. There is also an additional dream which I'll cover at the end. In my simplistic way, I look at MS in two ways: MS the disease and MS the cause of the disabling conditions. I have been living with MS for over 40 years. However, for the first 30 of those years, I had MS, but MS did not have any effect on my quality of life. I was as normal as the next person, whatever that is. I played sports. In actual fact, having watched the World Cup recently, I was an average rugby player, but having seen my Irish team display in the last World Cup, I now think I was a good rugby player. I played sports, I worked, got married, had a family, and had a reasonable social life. It has only been in the last 10 years or so that disabling conditions have introduced themselves, and it is these conditions that have affected my quality of life. So I look forward to the delivery in the near future of therapies to address and hopefully reverse these disabling influences. I believe this can and will happen, but might require multiple therapies. I hope that Tysabri has started me down this road for the aforementioned bowel and bladder problem. Being a logical layman, I feel that it will take some treatments such as stem cells to repair the damage already caused in the mobility and dexterity areas, and I have great hope for this, but it may take some time. It may take a different type of therapy to deal with my emotional and fatigue problems. These are some of my dreams, dealing with my disabling conditions as a result of my MS. I remember the past, I live in the present, and I dream of the future. However, I have one more overriding dream, and that is the protection of my children and all future generations. So please, scientists, hurry on and find, firstly, a vaccine against, and secondly, a cure for this most unwelcome visitor, multiple sclerosis. It is up to each and every one of us to play an active part in decisions taken that affect our quality of life. Query everything, look for choices, influence your medics and your society, get involved in whatever way suits you, always remembering that you have just one shot at life. This is not a rehearsal.